Maybe you know this feeling. For months, you have been filling the feeder outside your window. You have gone out on cold mornings, brushed snow from the tray, cracked ice from the bird bath, and poured fresh seed into the same small place every day. At first, they were just birds. Then slowly they became familiar. There was the cardinal with the slightly uneven tail, the chickadee that always landed first, and the nervous sparrow that watched from the hedge. You began to notice who came early, who waited, and who looked in through the glass as if it knew you were there. And somewhere along the way, you felt connected to them. So one morning, when the feeder is full and the yard is alive with wings, you take one slow step closer to the window. Not to scare them, not to hurt them. You only want to see them better. Your hand touches the glass, and in an instant, the whole yard explodes. Wings flash, seeds scatter, branches shake. The birds vanish into the trees as if danger itself has entered the yard. You are left standing there, looking at an empty feeder. It can feel strangely personal. After all those mornings and all that care, they still flew away from you. And the question rises before you can stop it. Why don't they trust me? But the truth is, the birds did not fly away because they hate you. They did not fly away because your care meant nothing. They flew away because in their world, survival comes before every other feeling. A bird cannot look into your heart and see kindness. It cannot know that you bought the seed, cleaned the water, or worried about it during the storm. It can only read what your body is doing in this exact moment. And in that moment, you are not the kind person behind the glass. You are a large creature moving closer. That is the misunderstanding at the center of almost every backyard relationship between people and birds. When you walk into your yard, you know who you are. You know you are the person who feeds them. You know you have no plan to harm them. You may even feel protective of them. But birds do not live inside your story. They live inside a world of signals. They see size, direction, speed, the angle of your eyes, whether your body is facing them, and whether you are moving straight toward them or simply passing by. And for a small bird, that collection of signals can look very much like a predator. A predator does not need to announce itself. It only needs to focus, approach, and close distance. In the wild, waiting a few extra seconds to find out whether something is truly dangerous can be the last mistake a small animal ever makes. So birds do not ask, "Does this person love me?" They ask a colder question. "If I stay here one more second, do I survive?" When we understand that, their fear begins to look less like rejection and more like intelligence. Flying away is not an insult. It is a decision that has kept birds alive for millions of years. This is why some of the things bird lovers do with the best intentions can accidentally send the wrong message. You see a beautiful bird at the feeder, so you walk straight toward the window. You stare at it because you admire it. You lift your phone because you want to capture the moment. You lean forward because you want a better look. To you, these are signs of interest. To the bird, they may be the language of danger. Predators often move directly toward what they want. They lock their eyes on a target. They face it head on. They focus on one animal instead of the whole environment. Humans do these things without meaning to. We walk directly toward the feeder. We stare at the prettiest bird. We raise our hands suddenly. We stop breathing and lean closer. We make ourselves look more focused, not less. And focus is exactly what prey animals are built to notice. The good news is that while birds cannot read your intentions, you can change the signals as your body sends. If you need to go outside, do not walk straight at the birds unless you have no choice. Move at an angle. Take the same path when you can. Keep your pace steady. Do not stare at one bird for too long. Look slightly away or look down or look past them. Keep your hands low. If you want to film, raise the phone slowly, not suddenly when the bird is already watching you. In other words, try not to act like a creature that has selected a target. This may feel strange because humans build trust by showing attention. But in the language of a wild bird, attention can be pressure. Distance can be respect. Looking away can be kindness. Sometimes the way to become safer in an animal's world is not to prove your love more loudly, it is to ask for less. And distance is not failure. When a bird stays farther away than you wish, it is not insulting you. It is using one of the most important tools it has. Every species has its own comfort zone. Every individual has its own history. A chickadee in a busy neighborhood may tolerate a person much closer than a shy sparrow in a quiet rural yard. A bird that has seen cats under the feeder may be more nervous. Birds in breeding season may react differently than birds in winter. So the goal should not be to make every bird come close. The goal is to help them decide on their own that your presence is less dangerous than it used to be. That progress may be small. A bird that used to vanish when the door opened may now fly only to the nearest branch. A bird that once stayed away for 15 minutes may return after 3. It may look at you, flick its wings, and choose not to leave. That is not nothing. For a small wild animal, staying a few extra seconds near a giant creature is a meaningful decision. It means the bird's nervous system has run its calculation and, for the moment, decided that escape is not necessary. That is what trust often looks like in the wild. Not landing on your hand, not loving you, not forgetting fear, just staying. But how does that calculation change? Not through gratitude, not through one perfect moment, not because the bird suddenly understands your heart. It changes through repeated data. A bird is always collecting information. It notices when you appear, which door you use, whether your arrival is followed by food, noise, movement, danger, or nothing at all. It notices whether you stare. It notices whether you rush. It notices whether bad things happen after you enter the yard. At first, you may belong in the category of possibly dangerous. That is the safest category for a bird to place almost anything large and unfamiliar. Then, over time, if you appear again and again without causing harm, the category can begin to shift. Not friend in the human sense, not family, but perhaps less dangerous. Perhaps part of the background. Perhaps large creature that fills the feeder and then leaves. That may not sound romantic, but for a wild bird, it is a great compliment. You are not asking the bird to like you. You are asking its nervous system to update its file on you. And nervous systems update slowly when survival is involved. This is why consistency matters so much. Birds live by prediction. They learn which branches are safe, where hawks sometimes perch, which sounds belong to the wind, and which sounds come before a cat appears. Their lives depend on turning patterns into decisions. To a bird, a predictable human is much easier to understand than a dramatic one. Many people accidentally become unpredictable. One morning they come out the back door. The next day they come from the side gate. One day they move slowly. Another day they rush. Sometimes they fill the feeder and leave. Sometimes they stop and stare. From the human side, all of this is normal life. From the bird's side, it is chaos. So if you want birds to feel safer, become boring. Come out at roughly the same time when you can. Use the same door. Walk the same route. Move at the same steady speed. Fill the feeder in the same order. Check the water. Step back. Sit in the same place. Do not suddenly try to get closer just because one bird seemed calmer yesterday. Let the pattern repeat. At first, the birds may leave the moment the door opens. That is fine. Fill the feeder and go back inside. After a few days, they may still fly, but not as far. After a week, a bold little bird may stay in a nearby shrub and watch you work. Later, one bird may return while you are still in the yard, keeping its distance, ready to escape, but willing to test the situation. Nothing magical happened. You became a pattern they could solve. And to a bird, a pattern it can solve is a pattern it can sometimes ignore. Your voice can become part of that pattern too. You do not need to call them or pretend to be one of them. A soft, steady tone repeated calmly before you fill the feeder can make your arrival less sudden. Over time, a bird may hear you before it sees you and choose not to flee immediately. That does not mean it loves you. It means your sound has been filed under something familiar. The yard itself also matters. Even if your behavior is perfect, birds may stay nervous if the space around the feeder feels dangerous. A feeder placed right beside a busy door may surprise them every time someone steps out. A feeder in the middle of an empty lawn may leave them exposed. A yard with no shrubs, no branches, and no quick escape routes asks birds to take a bigger risk. A safer yard gives birds choices. They need cover nearby, but not so close that a cat can hide directly beneath them. They need a place to retreat, a branch to land on, and a clear enough view to watch for danger. You are not only teaching birds through your body, you are teaching them through the space you create. When a bird has somewhere to retreat, it can afford to be a little braver. When it knows escape is possible, staying becomes less expensive. Still, trust is fragile. Imagine that after the weeks of patient routine, the yard has finally softened. The birds no longer vanish at the first sound of the door. A chickadee returns while you are sitting in your usual chair. A cardinal watches from the fence, but does not leave. The feeder is active, and you feel that quiet happiness that comes when wildlife accepts your presence for even a moment. Then your phone buzzes in your pocket. Without thinking, you reach for it quickly. One fast movement. The yard erupts. Every bird is gone. The silence afterward can feel like failure. You may think you ruined everything, but you have not ruined everything. You have simply added new data. Birds learn danger faster than they learn safety. That is not unfair. It is survival. A bird that is slow to learn danger may not get a second chance. A bird that is slow to learn safety only wastes a little more energy by being cautious. So one sudden movement can outweigh many calm mornings, at least for a while. But the earlier learning does not vanish completely. The safe pattern is still there. It may be buried under a fresh alarm, but it can be rebuilt. Often, if you return to the same calm routine the next day, the birds recover faster than they did the first time. Same door, same path, same pace, same quiet voice, same lack of demand. You begin again. That is part of the relationship too. Not perfection, but repair. And it is important to be honest. Not every bird will trust you in the same way. Some species are naturally bolder. Some are careful by nature. Some individuals have lived through close calls you will never know about. A bird that has been chased, stalked by cats, or startled repeatedly may hold a larger distance. A young bird may seem fearless, but that does not mean you should encourage it to lose caution. Trust should never be forced. The goal is not to make wild birds tame. It is not to make them dependent. It is not to make them land on your hand for a video. It is not to collect a moment that proves you are special. Wild birds need their fear. They need suspicion. They need the ability to fly from strangers, cats, dogs, windows, and sudden movement. If your kindness makes a bird less able to survive beyond your yard, then it is not kindness anymore. The better goal is smaller and more respectful. In this one place, in this one yard, you become a little less threatening. You become a steady part of the environment. You offer food, water, cover, and calm. You let the bird choose the distance. You let it keep its wildness. That is a deeper kind of trust than closeness. Because real trust is not something you take from an animal. It is something the animal gives in the amount it can afford. And here is the final turn. You may think you are trying to get birds to notice you, but they have noticed you for a long time. From the first day you stepped into the yard, they were watching. The door you used, your stride, your hands, your voice, and what happened after you appeared. They watched whether you brought danger or routine, whether you demanded attention or allowed space. The question is not, how do I make birds recognize me? The question is, what version of me have they already recognized? Have they learned that you are the person who rushes toward the window and stares? Have they learned that you are the person who appears suddenly, raises a phone, and makes the yard explode? Or have they learned that you are the person who arrives the same way each morning, moves slowly, looks away, fills the feeder, checks the water, and asks for nothing? Every time you step outside, you are teaching them the answer. Every morning is a small lesson, and one day, you may notice something so quiet that another person would miss it. The cardinal with the uneven tail is at the feeder again. You are inside, or maybe sitting far away in your usual chair. This time, you do not rush to the glass. You do not lift your phone. You do not lean forward. You breathe normally. You look slightly to the side. The bird sees you. It pauses. For a moment, everything hangs there. Then it does not fly. Maybe it only stays 2 seconds longer than it would have before. Maybe it takes one seed and lifts back into the shrub. Maybe it simply turns its head, watches you, and decides that escape can wait. That is not a dramatic victory. It is not proof that the bird loves you. It is not a fairy tale bond. It is something quieter and in some ways more beautiful. A wild creature, built by survival to be cautious, has updated its map of the world. And in that map, you have become a little less dangerous. So the next time birds fly away from you, try not to take it as betrayal. See it for what it is, life protecting itself. And if one day a bird stays a little longer, do not treat that as a small thing. For an animal made of heartbeat, feathers, hunger, memory, and fear, staying is never small. It means that after many mornings of watching you, measuring you, testing you, and surviving beside you, that bird has made a quiet decision, not to come close, not to be owned, not to forget the sky, but to remain for one more second in the same world as you. And sometimes with wild things, one more second is where trust begins.